They know what their friends had for lunch, right? They've seen pictures. Oh, Susie had lunch at, the Crab Shack the other day. Great. All useless information, right? You don't need to know what Susie's having for lunch, right? What you need to know is who your congressman is, what they're voting on, how that's going to impact your life when it comes to things like taxes and whatnot, right?
Alrighty, welcome back. Mike Lomas, Glenn Wiggle, Financial Guys podcast, the place where money meets politics. And today, Joe Tilton is going to join us. Joe, one of our tech gurus, marketing gurus. I don't know. What do we call you, Joe? What is your official title?
My official title is Digital Marketing Strategist.
I like that. Digital marketing.
Professor Clicky.
Professor Click, yeah.
I'll take that too.
We call him the professor. That's his nickname. And you are actually, don't you teach on a little bit, right?
I am teaching a little bit right now on an online course with a couple students in Long Island. I did teach for a little while at UB. It's kind of like an adjunct-esque guest teacher for 3 or 4 years, but ever since COVID and a few other things, politics related stuff, I haven't came back basically.
All right, so Joey's going to join us today. We're going to talk a little bit about Facebook and what's going on, Instagram and all that. We will, by the way, get to whether you can enjoy Christmas with your family this year. It's still on the edge with Dr. Fauci and Mark Poloncarz, Bernstein, Pelosi. I would imagine Fauci are all going to be enjoying Christmas dinner with their family, but we'll see if you can. We'll see if you're going to be allowed to do that. So
remember Dr. Burke? She was the best, right? I'm not seeing any family. Don't go see family. Just 1 year, and then she's seen going to Delaware or something with all of her family, like her grandkids.
No, she went to a private resort, didn't she?
I don't know, something like that.
I think she went to a
some sort of private event, private place, and then she thought that, for whatever reason, she thought that it wasn't going to be seen on the internet. I mean, come on, this is the 21st century. You're going to get caught regardless of what you do.
Doesn't matter, though. Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I think when it comes to all this stuff, that's what makes people the most frustrated and the angriest, right, is the hypocrisy of all of these clowns, right? How many pictures and videos have we seen, guys, where I'll show one today. The guy, he's behind stage, right, no mask. He bends over, puts his books down, puts the mask on, picks up his things, then walks out on the stage 20 feet, takes his mask off, and starts speaking from the podium. It's the government official in the Biden administration, right? How many times have we seen them cancel, no more indoor dining, no more, more than 100 people together, and then, the mayor of whatever said town or the governor of whatever said state decides to have a huge party or go to Lollapalooza, for example. I mean, it's just enough is enough. Stop telling people they can't enjoy their families while you go spend time with your family.
Yeah,
it's bullshit. It's enough. Stop.
Did you see that post? It was on one of the stations we were on in Florida. On their website was a guy, he's riding his motorcycle with a face diaper on his face, but with no helmet. So he's not worried about head trauma. He's not worried about getting hit by a semi-truck and flying 1,700 miles and watching his cranium get smashed in. But he is worried about catching COVID at 75 miles an hour down the thruway. You got to be a special kind of mental midget.
That because we talk about following the science all the time, and I'm a big man about science in general, if it's done properly, of course. And the statistics of you dying from a head trauma on a motorcycle without a helmet is literally way greater than you catching COVID or even coming close to dying of COVID.
Way higher. Yeah.
Way higher. And I don't understand the ridiculousness of it.
It's a political statement.
But I tell you what, what's even rarer, Joe, what's really rare is the guy in Florida who got in a head-on motorcycle crash, died, but had COVID at the time.
Yes.
And the COVID is what killed him. I mean, who knew? Right? It's amazing. That's an anomaly. That's,
it wasn't the Toyota truck running his body over.
No, it was definitely COVID.
It was the fact that when they brought him in, he had COVID.
Absolutely, for sure.
Joe, let's talk a little bit about Facebook. What's going on? It was shut down yesterday, I guess. I'm not on Facebook. Instagram
didn't even
was
notice.
Shut down. Yeah. Instagram was shut down.
Glad you didn't even notice. That's good.
Instagram was shut down. Apparently that was a big thing too. I did not notice. But now there was all these rumors that it was a whistleblower. And there is a whistleblower that has come forward to really talk about some of the corruption that's going on in Facebook. Now, unfortunately, and I'm going to make a prediction here. This will bite the conservatives once again because we'll think this is all about being fair and finally we're going to get Facebook and because it's clear what they're doing, right? They're censoring conservatives. This will be more of the same. What is going to happen is, this is my prediction.
Sanction.
Yeah, is that the only people that the bad news that they're not getting out there is not enough of these conservatives like Glenn and Mike who are trying to tell the truth about COVID. We got to get more of them. Watch and see. That's my prediction, is that we will think, and many conservatives will think, oh, this is awesome, man. Finally, we're going to get these guys. No, they're just going to make it worse.
In fact, this whistleblower looks like a CIA plant to me, honest to God. This is a CIA, I'm telling you, this is a CIA plant.
Could be.
This is all, you're exactly right, Mike. This is a setup again.
Yep.
FBI, CIA setup, just like January 6th was a setup. We know that now. We'll talk about that later if we get a chance, but we know that now. The FBI's admitted that, basically. But this is, you're right, Mike. This is a total setup. This is a setup to have her testify in front of, and then they'll be, you know what, we're gonna have to regulate it more.
Yep.
And now it'll be government and hand in hand, which is what they're doing it already. Now it'll just be out in the open and legitimate, and you'll get the people to cheer it on.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about that because your predictions are really close to what's actually happening right now. Because I had I read. Some people, I don't pay attention to CNN or anything like that. That's what some people say. I read both sides of the story so I can get straight up the facts, so I know who's doing what, who's pushing propaganda, things of that nature. And this is exactly what's going on. So just to give you a short recap of what happened. So yesterday, Facebook had a worldwide outage, a quote-unquote DNS attack. That's basically when the entire system goes down. And it wasn't just Facebook. It was a Facebook Messenger, which is, it's still tied to Facebook, but it's considered a separate own app thing. Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. WhatsApp, which is also owned by Facebook. Those are all went down, all pretty much simultaneously. Now, I like the coincidence behind all this because, yes, there is that whistleblower. I believe her name is like Frances or something like that. And she was like trying to like get these documents for a while. So it all began like around like April or May of 2021 of this year. And she was reading all these documents, and she started collecting thousands of pages of documents about like the inner workings of Facebook. And then her identity wasn't revealed, and this information was being pushed around like to like from my understanding like certain officials. And then all of a sudden it came clear as of yesterday where the announcement of who she was was announced. And this information was actually pushed all over Facebook, all over the internet. It leaked, essentially, is what happened. And so what it was is that there were several things that they wanted to talk about in these, thousands of documents that were, apparently a big thing. And this is where I kind of get into the, rightful predictions that you, Mike, and Glenn have. So one of the things they talked about in the documentation was that Facebook had writings about them favoring what was the word here I'm looking for? They're favoring they're not favoring privacy is what they're doing. They're favoring more of profit versus privacy. So that's one thing that she said is like Facebook says they'd rather make more money than keep your data private.
Is that news though? I mean, is that really news? Is that record breaking? I mean, didn't we already know this, Joe?
Record breaking news. You're absolutely right. Not record breaking news.
They're selling all of our stuff, right, for profit, aren't they?
I heard them though. I heard them try to twist that a little bit, and they talked about privacy in the context of fighting. Like, okay, well, there's a Democrat and a Republican, and they're going back and forth. And instead of keeping that the private, it's out in the open. And I just couldn't help but think, how are they trying to tie this into getting less conservative voices out there?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Don't worry, I'm building up to that point, I promise you. So, because that's where this is going. So I read on CNN and Wall Street Journal, New York Times. I've read all the articles out there. And that was kind of the first thing that they talked about was the public, and all the articles were virtually the same. Maybe sometimes in the articles that they wrote, they would get her, position wrong. It's a data researcher versus a product manager. They couldn't get their story straight. But the starting was always the same. Facebook value profit over privacy. It was the first thing they always talked about right off the bat. And then they go into the other stuff. So the second thing they talked about was how Facebook used Instagram to do psychological research on girls on like their mental behaviors. And they were like talking about like what that they didn't really go into the findings of that research other than the fact that they did that research. That's from what I've read so far on that. Is that they said, hey, we've been looking into the behavior of young women specifically teenagers, on Instagram, and we're doing this study so we could find out more information. However, they want to use that research.
I have a whole house full of girls. They're all mentally stable.
Yeah.
But none of them are on
just
Facebook,
kidding. I love
bet
you guys. Just kidding.
Especially the young ones that want nothing to do with Facebook.
Yeah.
And then that was the second thing they talked about, and then we get into what I call the root of the issue here, and this is where I think you guys are exactly right on the money here, because there wasn't a single article that didn't talk about this, where and now I'm paraphrasing here because obviously the articles said it a little bit differently, but apparently she said that Facebook, and according to the documents, Facebook helped with the quote unquote January 6th insurrection, that Facebook had ties to it.
There you go.
Facebook let people get away with anti-COVID-19 vaccine propaganda, and they just let it loose. Just letting people say what they want on that. They were saying that there was an overwhelming amount of hate speech and violence, and Facebook's just letting that kind of get away.
Anything on the burning down of Baltimore, Seattle, or Portland?
No. They only talked about the biggest thing was the insurrection of January 6th. That was a big thing in there.
Yeah.
The fact that Facebook is letting people
This is totally a plant. Totally a plant.
They're letting individuals get away with the hate speech and the divisiveness. That was a big one. And the divisiveness of everything.
And the hate speech and the divisiveness will be all conservative. It will be none of, hey, look we're going to gather here to burn down the McDonald's in Minnesota. That will not be censored. That's just fine. That's just fine. These people are sick.
What about the Taliban page? Is that okay? Is that
they
still
mentioned
up?
that, Joe?
No, I didn't see anything like that in there. And then they also mentioned this has gotten from what I've been able to read in the last 24 hours. They also mentioned that that certain VIP individuals, they just said VIP individuals, they didn't say anything more names or anything like that, were being favored on Facebook, where they were doing bad stuff, but they were getting little to no repercussions based on their bad stuff. And then they also said something about Facebook having political ties.
Anything on Hunter's artwork there or anything? No?
Laptop? Anything?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing of that. And then that was pretty much what the CNN talked about. CNN wrote 2 articles about that. They wanted to get their point across very strongly about that. There was always about the incursion of the insurrection of January 6th, the violence, the divisiveness, and we all know this is being targeted towards conservatives, because apparently next week, either this week or next week, I can't remember what they exactly said, she is going to officially testify in Congress with all the findings that she had.
She's testifying today.
Okay,
she's supposed to be testifying today in front of Congress. Supposedly, that's the plan. I got.
You got to get a copy of that.
So here's how I know this is a setup. CNN's reporting on it. Pure and simple, right? Let me tell you something. If this wasn't a setup, if it wasn't the talking points coming from this, I know I sound crazy, folks, but look at. I would have said, Glenn, you're crazy too, until they sold high-powered weapons to Mexican drug cartels. Okay, don't tell me that our government isn't, in a lot of ways doing very bad things, right? Yeah. So don't tell me that it's out of the question that the CIA doesn't leak information strategically that they want out there. So you nailed it, Joe. Every single news story from every single outlet is running with the exact same talking points at the same time. It's not as if somebody put it out there and the rest of them cited that article. It's literally as if they manufactured this girl's background, and then they put out the talking points to CNN, MSNBC, and all the news stations, and they all picked it up as dutifully they do, and they run with it, right? But this person sounds like she's perfect, right? Frances Hagen, this is from CNN, a former Facebook product manager with stints at several other big tech companies, went public with an appearance on 60 Minutes. Wow, she got on 60 Minutes really fast, didn't she?
Right.
That was really
fast,
really quick, right? Hagen is set to testify in front of a U.S. Senate subcommittee on Tuesday. That's today. Here's what we know about her so far, the background. Hagen grew up attending the Iowa caucuses with her parents, according to a personal website. That experience instilled a strong sense of pride in democracy and responsibility for civic participation, the website added. Who put that website up? Who put the government? CIA? Seriously? Yeah. Who has a website on themselves? I don't. We have our business website. Yeah. So many people in the private sector just put up their own websites, right? That makes sense, right? After studying electrical and computer engineering, followed by an MBA, Hagen worked at several tech firms starting in 2006, including Google, Pinterest, and Yelp. She specializes in algorithmic product management and has worked on several ranking algorithms similar to the one Facebook uses to organize its main newsfeed, according to her prepared testimony obtained by CNN on Monday. Now, how did they obtain that, I wonder?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they leaked it again. Very easily,
Well,
right?
CNN's got the
This
info.
has got the government's fingerprints all over it.
Breaking the
All
story,
over it.
CNN.
Please. Yeah, right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, it was nice to see you guys on Facebook because we're probably done.
Yeah,
we
right,
probably have
exactly.
about a month or two left.
Well, they're already shadow banning us, right? They're
Yes.
already shadow banning us, right? I love the fact that it's just the propaganda now is really outrageous. I mean, what passes for news today and what's counted as news on CNN, MSNBC is, I mean, when you've got somebody like Joy Reid who on MSNBC who is just an absolute moronic racist. I mean, you want to talk about dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, she is peak stupid right there. I mean, right on her own. I mean, she is. And yet there she is spewing just absolute nonsense, right?
Yep.
It's amazing. Now, who is it, Pfizer or Merck that's coming out with this new pill?
Pfizer.
Spelled IVERM.
Now, who talked
right?
about that a long time ago?
Oh, look at this. A pill that could potentially cut the risk of hospitalization and death in half,
Hey,
right?
could that be
but-
the thing they were using in Florida that we got rid of? Oh, look at that.
Well, the
Look
thing
at
is,
that.
it just amazes me that the stuff that they're just downplaying. Where the thing in Florida is actually different. It's the monoclonal antibodies. They take the antibodies from people that have had them, they spin them, and they put them in other people via IVs. This is basically, if you look at the actual ingredients, there's ivermectin in it. And when people say, no, this is different, this is a chemical, they use some of that, yeah, but it's mixed with other things. Oh, come on.
Right.
This is basically ivermectin with a couple other things added, like food coloring, right?
Change it into a pill form instead of a shot.
Change it into pill form, and now it's going to be, $4,000 a pill or something ridiculous.
That's right.
Pfizer, by the way, is set to make $30 billion. Let me tell you something. I'll give
Who's
you a
on
little
the
secret.
board of Pfizer?
What happened to liberals, though, in all seriousness, Mike and Joe? Liberals used to be the ones that would actually question big government, or not big government, but they love big government, big corporate, right?
Yes.
Where are the liberals and the Democrats saying,
Where are
and
the
rightfully
profit
so,
margins? Yeah.
right? Rightfully so. If Pfizer is the one telling you that the shot is safe, but they're also the ones that are profiting by $30+ billion from the shot. Do you think maybe there's a conflict of interest there that should be looked at by other agencies?
And what happened
Yes.
to these liberals that just shame on profits, shame
Right. No
on
problem
profits?
now.
Right? Why isn't Pfizer giving this away for free? Now,
Right.
by the way, all this was a huge problem when Trump was in office.
Right.
Every single one of them said they
I've
would
got
never
that.
take the shot. They would never trust government. They wouldn't do it. That hasn't been tested long enough. The minute Biden walked into office, that shot was absolutely fine, and they were forcing it in everybody's arm in any way, shape, or form they can. They didn't care if you had it. My kids had it. My 14-year-old, they're going to try to do whatever they can to force that shot in her arm, and she's got 27 times the antibodies than somebody who just took the stupid shot, right?
Did you see
By the way,
Polenkar's tweet today citing the Buffalo News? I mean, you want to
No.
talk about peak stupid. There you go, right? He goes, see, this is why everybody should get the shot, even if they've had, according to this article, makes a lot of good points. The article talks about, well, we don't know how long the natural antibodies last. Well, guess what? You don't know how long the vaccine lasts
That's right.
either, right?
Yeah. Well, we
But
do know.
all of the
we do know
studies
that-
thus far are showing that the natural immunity is way better.
Yeah, 7
All
to
of the
27
studies.
times better.
I mean, if you
every
look
single
at-
one of them.
If you look at the science of like the natural state of things, now there are exceptions to the rule, yes, smallpox and all that other stuff, but 9 times out of 10, the natural way is the better way. I mean,
99
I think-
out of 100, Joe.
You know,
99
we
out of
talk
100.
We talk about the hypocrisy of things like this and like the liberals and like, and I have a lot of liberal friends and stuff like that who are vegan, who are health conscious and stuff like that, but they'd rather put a artificially made like vaccine in their arm rather than if they did catch COVID, having a natural immunity to like
Joe,
basically combat.
let me tell you, you are absolutely spot on. It's so funny. There's a few liberals that I know that are just like they won't drink water out of a plastic bottle because they feel like A, the bottle is going to hurt the environment, and B, there might be some residue left in the plastic that's going to hurt their system. But they have no problem showing up in a line like a sheep saying, oh, line me up for the shot because Joe Biden said to take it. Like, do you realize, are you listening to yourself? Like, you will not drink water out of a bottle but yet you're lined up for a shot that's been around for a year.
Well, think about this. Where are they drinking their water from then? Because if it's coming through the city pipes, have you ever seen city pipes and what's in some of these city pipes?
No.
So
anyway, let me play this montage real quick.
Back then, I actually used to work for the Buffalo Sewer Authority as a security guard way back in my 18, 19, 20 area. And, obviously they go there in the Buffalo Sewer Authority, they dump the sewage, but there are no water treatment plants nearby and things of that nature. It is awful over there, absolutely awful. I'm and then they're like, yeah, the water is fine, but, it's ridiculous.
How about the 2 times they dumped it in the Niagara River and completely, polluted? It was disgusting.
Yeah.
Let me play this montage quick. I won't play the whole thing. I've got 2 minutes and 41 seconds of Democrats basically saying, I'm not taking this shot.
I think it's going to be a very skeptical American public about taking the vaccine, and they should be.
We can't trust the president and take his word and take a vaccine that might cause harm to us.
If and when the vaccine comes, and it's not likely to go through all the tests that needs to be and the trials that are needed to be done.
Let's just say there's a vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?
Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us.
When we finally do, God willing, get a vaccine, who's going to take the shot? Who's going to take the shot?
We will need to have access to the vaccine results so we can make our independent assessment to make sure that Donald Trump's fingerprints are not on it.
You can be the first one to say, sign me up. They now say it's okay.
Is the vaccine safe? Frankly, I'm not going to trust the federal government's opinion. And I wouldn't recommend to New Yorkers.
These people are disgusting.
On the federal government's opinion.
And the question of whether it's real when it's there, that requires enormous transparency.
Would you trust that vaccine?
There's very little that we can trust that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth.
We cannot take for granted this process will be free of political influence.
I don't trust the president, and I don't trust the FDA.
If Donald Trump can't give answers and the administration can't give answers to these 3 questions, the American people should not have confidence.
You're going to say to the American people now, here's a vaccine. It was new. It was done quickly. But trust.
I got another minute of
disgusting.
That still.
These are
another
disgusting
minute.
human beings.
They spent 9 months since President Trump, if you recall, in March of 2020, immediately announces Operation Warp Speed, which lowers the regulatory hurdles to actually get these things through trial so that the vaccines could come to market. Every single one of these Democrats said, I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't take it.
Never.
I wouldn't do it. I'm telling you, New Yorkers, not to trust it, not to take it, right? The minute Biden comes into office, we got to get all these shots in everybody's arms, and now it's the And at the same time, we're not going to mandate it, though, and now we're here mandating it, right?
That's right. We're not going to mandate it. However, you can't go see a concert, the Bills game, the Sabres.
Sabres.
By the way, the Sabres
looking
last
strong.
night. Oh, that anti-vax crowd that vaxxed crowd really filled up the arena last night. We got pictures. There must have been 16 people filling in a 17,000-seat arena. But the same thing would happen to the Bills. They're good, though, right? So that's what hurts it. And, of course, you got a lot of sheep. Shame on that stadium for booing Cole Beasley. It's amazing. I was at a lot of games where they weren't booing anybody for kneeling for the American flag. Nope. They weren't booing them for not coming out for the American flag, right? But yet they weren't booing them for supporting Black Lives, the terrorist group Black Lives Matters, as we know most of that, a big chunk of that group is, right? But yet, so Cole Beasley doesn't want to get the vaccine. He's probably one of the healthiest guys on the entire planet, and they're booing him last week. Shame on them. Cole's like, I'm only getting booed in my own stadium. I'm like, Cole, well, you got to realize, you live in Buffalo, you live in New York, right? It's littered with mental midgets, Cole. These are people that drove to the stadium by themselves with a face diaper on their face. So these are the people that are booing you, Cole, right? They're the same mental midgets that'll go, geez, I can't find a job around here. Or I can't, you know what? I think I'm going to move to Florida because I don't want to pay New York State taxes anymore, right? So huge, Cole, don't take offense to it. These people are not that bright. It's probably 15 to 20,000 of the 70,000 that were there, and they're just dumb. They're just dumb people. They're morons. That's all you can say.
They really are. I mean, honest to God, the government and the Democrats have done a wonderful job of dividing this country between the vaxxed and the unvaxxed, the black and the white, the haves and the have-nots, right?
Yep.
I mean, they have sliced and diced this in so many different ways. I find myself, being an ally, or at least on the side of people that I can't stand, right? I mean, you look at some of these basketball players, like who's the guy?
LeBron James?
Yes, exactly. All of a sudden, I agree with LeBron James. Like, well, how did that happen? Like, how are we?
Has he come out? I didn't see him.
He came out and said, "I don't think they should be forcing vaccinations on basketball players."
Yeah, well, maybe he should maybe he should find the other half of his brain and start voting for the right people, or not supporting the wrong people.
So you take black and white and you separate that group, right? Yep. And then within that group, you take vax and unvax. That separates that group again, right? And then you take the different groups. And now different groups are starting to align with each other. And now society is completely breaking down, right? And that's exactly what the Democrats want. This is the next.
Well, they
thing
broke down family. That was the first step, right?
Family,
the first
religion.
step was to break down
this is a societal breakdown. And going back to the vaccine stuff here. The difference, had Trump been in office and won the 2020 election or anything like that, what would have happened with the vaccine is Trump would not have made he would not have pushed it as hard. He would say, we recommend it based on Operation Warp Speed and stuff like that and whatnot, but he wouldn't have pushed it very hard. He would have recommended it at most. He wouldn't mandate it, but he wouldn't take away all of our civil liberties. Right? He'd make the choice up to us. And at that point, it's okay.
My guess is more people would have been vaccinated. Had they taken the approach of, we think this is safe, we're not going to mandate it, but we would encourage you to do it, I think a lot more people would have. Right. What makes me really sick, and we posted on our Facebook page this week, a lady who was 37 years old died after the second shot.
Sad.
Right?
Mother.
Died after the second shot.
2 or 3 kids.
You know, we know people, personally know people. We have a client whose son's head swelled up after the second shot. So just to say, and this is why I get so aggravated with these Democrats who, you see Marky Ponka, what's the big deal? Take your shot. Well, you act like it's a glass of water, and there's zero consequences to it, and nobody's gotten sick from it. You act like this thing's been around for 100 years, and we know what my 14-year-old daughter's body's, how it's going to react 20 years from now. You don't know that, Mark. You don't know that, Nancy Pelosi. You don't know that, Joe Biden. Joe doesn't even know his own name, but you don't know that. So why would you force somebody who's had COVID to go get the shot? In fact, why would you force anybody under the age of 75 or 85? Why would you don't force anybody? But the only people that could possibly die from this at this point, and I say you can't measure it. So when I say only, people die of lightning strikes, they die of shark attacks, they die of falling down their stairs. We've had clients that's happened to, right? It's very, very small. You cannot measure it. And when I hear people go, 700,000, this is the worst ever. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Well, they're accumulating it all. Now, I mean, what? Yeah. Look, if we said the flu. Okay, if we looked at a cumulative number like they're doing with COVID,
over 3 years of the flu,
they restart every year, right? Oh, last year was 60,000 deaths, or 2018 was 80,000 deaths, whatever. They're starting fresh every year to say, here's our annual death rate.
Well, they lied about it.
Counted flu the same way,
they still lied about it. Yeah,
but if they counted flu the same way, you could say, oh my God, the flu has killed millions and millions of people.
My God,
that's true. That's true. If you looked at the last 50 years.
If we counted the flu the way we do see the COVID, the numbers would be you'd never leave your house. Because what happens to most people, and this is not Mike Lewis, this is doctors telling me this, your system shuts down of multiple things, right? What they've done is said, if COVID is on your system, that's what we're marking down on your death certificate. That is not what has ever happened, right? If you have pancreatic cancer, but then you get influenza, pneumonia. They don't say you died just of pneumonia, right? 700,000 people did not die of COVID. The CDC has said 6% of them have died of COVID. And I can tell you the death certificates that I've seen from clients that have passed away in the last 3 years, I'm not sure even 6% is the number.
Well, usually it's because of the people that I know that have gotten the most sick or died, and I do know some folks that have died. The one that died was 86 years old, so he was up in age, right? He had dementia and things like that. He's a great guy, and probably maybe could have gone several more years, but who knows? I mean, you're up in 86. A lot of things can get you: pneumonia, flu, all kinds of stuff. But the people that I know that have been sick, that have been a little bit younger, like in their 50s, have been either diabetic. Right? I know one guy who spent 8 days in the hospital. He was really sick. Took him a month to recover. But he's overweight. He's 300 and some pounds, and he's a big guy. He's 6 foot something, so he's a huge guy. But he's again, he's still 300 and some pounds, and he's got diabetes. I mean, those are huge risk factors. He didn't die, but he got very sick. I know, but I will say this to your point, Mike. now, again, on personal experience, right? Now, I know from the reports from different doctors and whatnot, and you know from the things that we know how they're twisting the reporting on purpose, right? We know a couple of things, right? According to Dr. Birx, they're still doing this today. If you die within 30 days of a positive COVID test for whatever reason, you're considered COVID. You're considered a COVID death, right? So they're inflating it that way. But on the other side, on the adverse effects, they're under-reporting numbers. And here's how they're doing that. Now, unless you have an issue within like 48 hours, right, it's not counted as an adverse reaction to the vaccine, right? If you get past like 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, you're like, oh, but all of a sudden, 3 weeks in, 2 weeks in a day.
No, it wasn't the vaccine. It was something else.
No, something else, right? They completely now, so they're under-reporting the one side. But I can tell you from personal experience this, I know just as many people that have gotten sick from the virus, or I should say, I know just as many people who got sick from the shot that have gotten sick from the virus. Now, I don't know anybody who's died from the shot, and I do know people that have died from the virus. But I will say I know probably maybe a dozen people that got the virus. Some got very sick, some not at all. But I know probably a good, the half dozen to a dozen people that got very ill from the shot, some with very serious conditions.
The challenge is how we reacted to this. Nobody's ever denied that COVID wasn't real. It is how we reacted to it. And when we found out the data that strapping face diapers on people's faces actually seems like it caused more harm and may have caused more COVID cases, it certainly didn't stop it. There's nowhere in the country that you can say, hey, look, they face diapered more people and their numbers are better. There's nowhere in the world, right? So they knew that they were dividing people. They knew they weren't doing anything to help stop this virus because you can't. Right? Yeah. It was funny. I had a relative. We were at a wake, and he was a face diaper hero. He was going to wear it everywhere, and so the priest started doing his blessing, and he started coughing, and I turned to my relative. I said, what are you coughing for? He goes, oh my God, that's incense. They just stink. I said, well, how could that be? You got a face diaper on. Yeah, but. Now, COVID, by the way, you mental midget, is 1/16 the size of that smoke. So cough away big time. Like, come on, man. Use your brain.
So dumb.
That mask ain't going to help you. It's not. And it's
well,
funny.
did you see the New Zealand lockdowns? She came out. Now, they locked down New Zealand, hard lockdown. Like, you leave your house, we'll shoot you kind of lockdown stuff, right? New Zealand. She just came out yesterday and said, you know what? Didn't seem to work. No kidding.
No way.
Right? Didn't work the first time, the second time, the third time. That fourth time should have been a charm, right?
You know what it is,
talk
guys?
About mental midgets.
You need a seventh booster shot. You need a seventh booster shot.
Let New Zealand do this. Let New Zealand do all this and prove us right the entire time. New Zealand is the perfect social research study of what not to do for a government, and it's perfect right now because from banning guns, from trying to get rid of knives now because of that knife thing that happened, the mass stabbing and stuff like that, and
Joe, it doesn't ever seem to work though, right? They'll literally be on. They'll get rid of the guns, they'll get rid of the knives. Everything will get way worse, and then they'll move on to we need to destroy all the rocks in the country because people are smashing each other over the head with rocks. I mean, these people are brain dead. They are absolutely brain dead.
Speaking of rocks, now when hindsight is 20/20, right? And that's why they have that term, right? Hindsight's 20. So you start to look back. And you start to think about all of the Antifa riots and the BLM riots, right, where they were miraculously pallets of bricks, just no construction anywhere in Dallas. No. But yet here just so happens to be, well, look at that.
Right in the middle of the road.
A pallet of bricks for them to throw.
Right in the middle of the road.
And you have to wonder how, there's never any cameras that, so I hate to say this. I'm going to sound like what's the guy from, who's the guy who Alex Jones? I'm going to sound like Alex Jones. Right? I always used to think Alex Jones was a wackadoodle, way out there,
and he still is. There are some things that he really goes crazy.
He's still a wackadoodle. But I got to tell you, a lot of the things that he said years ago that I thought, oh my God, he's nuts, have come true. They've come true.
But some of the stuff, Glenn, turns into common sense. When you look at Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, come on. Clearly. Right. Like, you don't need to be...
Tell me that's not set up. You're setting people up to blackmail them on purpose, right? And then they continuously let... Somebody in Washington, when he was prosecuted the first time, remember? He got to go home at night. He got to show up for jail. He was put into a sheriff's nice, cushy jail cell. He got to leave during the day and come back just to sleep there, right? He got a slap on the wrist for child sex trafficking, right? Mm-hmm. I would say arguably one of the worst, if not the worst, crimes, right, in the country, right? He gets a slap on the wrist. Why? Because somebody in Washington said, don't prosecute this guy. Really? Who? During the Obama administration, somebody said, don't prosecute. Now, Trump comes in, they get the guy, right? By the way, how come you don't hear about any of these? When Trump was in office, I heard about all of these stings, right? 19 girls found in Ohio, 25 girls found in Georgia, all these sex trafficking stings.
None.
Trump did an awesome job. They have all completely stopped.
Yep.
Right? They've all completely. But you look back in hindsight now and you look at, some of these riots and the fact that how do we not have cameras that showed these bomb placements or these brick placements? Talk about the pipe bombs. And you have every square inch of D.C. under camera. And you had 5 or 6 pipe bombs supposedly that were placed around D.C. Gee, that seems like a backup plan, just in case the people didn't go into the Capitol as you anticipated, FBI. Right? It's almost as if the FBI just had a backup plan, just in case that the MAGA people didn't take the bait and actually go into the Capitol. They already announced it. Oh, look, we found 6 pipe bombs on the 5th. We think something might happen. If I'm speculating that if the MAGA people don't fall for it and go into the Capitol, they set off the other 6 pipe bombs that were out there, and they say, see, I guarantee you. Now, again, you've got cameras 24/7
everywhere,
all over the place, right? Nobody picks up anything on the cameras. They release a sketchy, dark image of a guy who looks like a cartoon character. Are you serious? Right? Yeah. All of these brick pallets being placed during these riots, just perfectly placed, like pallets of bricks, pallets of rocks, and things like that. No cameras picked any of that up. How about who was that? Seth Rich, the guy who was probably the guy who was the one who stole the DNC emails and sent them to WikiLeaks, right? He gets shot in the street, nothing taken, nothing stolen, in D.C., walking home late at night, right?
Yeah.
Clearly a hit job, right? Nothing taken, maybe except for a thumb drive that he had in his pocket, right? Not a single camera has been released. Cameras, again, all over that street.
Think about. Remember where Baltimore,
Jeffrey Epstein,
Minnesota was fiery but peaceful, right?
Yeah.
They could not find one person that started any of those fires.
No.
Yet locally here, they did find somebody who was at the riots starting CNN equipment on fire.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that's right.
No.
You should go to jail for that, right?
Sure.
You don't start CNN equipment on fire. You just don't do that, right? Act like a human being, right?
They got their own dumpster fire going. They don't need your help.
Yeah, they got their own ratings to worry about, right? But to the point, okay, there just happened to be a camera on him, but yet there's literally Portland, Baltimore, Minnesota, Rochester, you name it, on fire. Yet nobody finds anybody who actually lit the fire. No, really, that's funny.
Right.
Joe, let's go to you.
Accountability. That's what it is. No one's being held accountable for any other, except for the conservatives. Like, whenever it's our quote unquote our fault, we get the book thrown at us. But these Antifa guys, the bricks, the riots, no one's being held accountable. And it's like they're just being treated as we'll let them do what they want because they're helping us.
Joe, let me ask you this: is there any possibility to swing this thing back around to Facebook and all that? Is there any possibility that any of these other chassis are going to take off, Rumble or anything like that? I mean, it really seems like it would be really nice to have a conservative platform or an open platform that doesn't discriminate conservatives, but they just never seem to take off.
Well, and the problem is that if you take Snapchat, for instance, Facebook is the mega conglomerate of social media. They're the ones who are trying to buy out everyone because they want them under their thumb. They did it with Instagram. They attempted with Snapchat. They did it with WhatsApp and things of that nature because they want it. They want all that power. And people need to realize that Facebook isn't the only thing. It's convenient. It's the oldest of the social media networks that are the most modern. I mean, we can go all the way back to MySpace, but that was just a beta test compared to what Facebook is these days. And what it is that these platforms do have the possibility to pick up really fast. And it's not going to just be done by themselves. So, for instance, if you want a social media to take off, there's believe it or not, there's tons of social media platforms out there. Ones I can tell you've never even heard of because either they're segmented to certain countries or they're just so very minute. However, all it takes is for social media to take off is just get the word out. Simple as that. That's all you got to do. Big media that's like on our site, like Fox News or like One American News Network or conservative YouTube channels, they need to basically spread the word that, hey, we're on Rumble, this is the place to go. And I think with Facebook and this situation happening right now and all these articles coming out with the, let's attack more, let's be honest, call a spade a spade. Let's attack more conservatives on Facebook because we didn't do enough, because that's basically what they're spinning.
Right.
I think this is going to be that tipping point, the water over the dam, where things are starting to be more clear. And all it takes is just people to get on there and to spread the word. You don't have to do any marketing. There is no marketing behind it as far as like ads or anything like that. If you want something like Rumble to take off, all it's going to take is that the
will of the people.
The will of the people.
I will say this,
like
though. I am shocked at how easy it is for people to roll over. I am just shocked.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, when I look at the freedoms that we have in America and what we've accomplished, to think that people just roll over with some of this stuff is amazing to me. As simple as saying you're not going to go in and watch your Buffalo Bills, you need to get vaccinated, and I'm only one of 700 people that turned my tickets in.
I have a chart for that. Let me go grab it. I'll be right back. Hang on.
All right,
you keep talking.
So Joe, you're. It sounds like you're slightly optimistic that maybe at some point we would make the stance to say we've had enough.
Yeah, and it's gonna like yes, there's gonna be a lot of Facebook's gonna remain on there for quite a while. Mm-hmm. But even the skepticism of security is a big concern. You have more people leaving Google Chrome for DuckDuckGo.
Right here.
The Brysinger Matrix Alive. That's right. Yeah.
There you go. But you have more people leaving Google for DuckDuckGo because of privacy concerns.
I'm bringing in props.
Yeah, Facebook is the same way. There's privacy concerns right now and free speech issues. I mean, I don't know if you guys realize the power, the real power Facebook actually has. In some countries, they're pushing for legislation for Facebook so let's just say, Mike or Glenn, you guys go on and you say something bad about someone, not really bad, but just be like, oh, this person's a moron for, think of this. Typically, like a Mark Poloncarz post saying, like, you're an idiot for doing this.
We would never do that.
Well, no. You would never do that. I'm just using this. But it would allow some legislation in other countries are already pushing for Facebook to go into your personal profile and change the way you do your posts and change the way you say things. So it
Australia
is one of them. Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that Facebook has that power, and if it gets to that point where people can't honestly say an honest word on Facebook because feelings or hate speech or anything like that, you're going to find people dropping off that platform really quick.
What I find, before I get to my picture here, what I find is that some of these other platforms are not as good. I mean, as far as usability or interface, like
they don't have the money
yet,
yet,
Parler.
probably, right?
But you go to Parler and the user interface is not as good as Twitter. I mean, to be honest with you, some of these Rumble is not as easy to use as YouTube is, right? So a lot of it has to do with the actual usability. I wanted to grab this. I keep this in my office. This is a giant poster here. It's like 6 foot, 3 foot tall or whatever, 2 foot wide. It's a friend of ours that we work with, one of our business partners, the Brysinger Matrix of Life. And I made it into a pyramid. He said to me a long time ago, there's only 3 people in life: those that make it happen, those that make excuses why it can't happen, and those that wonder what the hell just happened or what the heck just happened. So I have this, and if you notice, it's a pyramid, because at the top, you've got the people that make it happen. Those are the entrepreneurs. Those are the people that are the business leaders, the political leaders, even the people that are. You look at the revolution, the freedom in this country, 1776, right? How many people actually fought against Britain? It was like less than 10% of the population that fought for their freedom. Yeah. The rest...
correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was 3%.
It might have been. It might have been 3%. The rest of the folks, they were milking their cows and they were planting their corn and they were going about their daily life. That's most people, right? The biggest part of this graph here is the people that go through life just wondering what the hell just happened, right? They don't have any idea who's in the White House. They don't know who their congressman is. They don't know what tax legislation is going on right now. They don't have any idea what's proposed. They have no idea. Here's what they do know. They know who the Bachelorette is this season, right? They know who's on Dancing with the Stars, right? They know that. They know all this useless information, a lot of it fed to them by Twitter, right, or Facebook, I should say. They know what their friends had for lunch, right? They've seen pictures. Oh, Susie had lunch at the Crab Shack the other day. Great. All useless information, right? You don't need to know what Susie's having for lunch, right? What you need to know is who your congressman is, who they're what they're voting on, how that's going to impact your life when it comes to things like taxes and whatnot, right? The middle part of this graph is those that make excuses why it can't happen. Now, these people are poison. You stay away from these people, right? These are the ones that are jealous because they can't do it themselves. They're the ones that make excuses. Well, I could have got – this is the group that they want to expand. This is the grievance group right in the middle there, right? That's the group that the Democrats want to expand to. You can't get ahead because you're black. You can't get ahead because you grew up in the inner city. You can't get ahead because there's a Republican governor in your state. You can't get ahead because of you're female, right? Your gender. You can't, right? These are the same people that tell you, oh, don't – we heard it for a whole career, right, Mike? You can't – guys, you're 25 years old. You can't start a radio show. Did it, right? Guys, you can't go out and start a business. You're 26 years old. Did it.
You can't start your own independent firm. Nobody's doing that.
Right, nobody's doing that. At your age, you don't have enough experience. Did it. Right, one of the largest firms in Western New York. Right now we have offices Buffalo, Batavia, Rochester. Right, radio shows on Buffalo 20+ years now in Rochester for several years, going on in Syracuse. Right, all those people that say you can't. They make excuses for themselves as to why they can't get ahead in life or why they're getting the short end of the stick, but they also try to bring you down with them. Avoid these people like they have the plague, right? Avoid these people like liberals try to avoid the unvaxxed, right? Stay away from them, right?
No, they don't.
No, they don't. But the majority of people, that big bottom group, right? They just wonder what the. So you have three people in life: the people that make it happen, people that wonder that make excuses why it can't happen, and people that wonder what the heck just happened. And the majority, 90% of the world, are that bottom group, right? 3% are the top group, and 7% are the middle group, telling people that they can't get ahead, right?
That's right.
It's funny that you mentioned the middle group here, just so, in case no one doesn't know a little bit about my life story. But I grew up, I'm a minority. Filipino, Japanese, a little bit of Italian in there mixed in. I lived in Mount Morris, New York. 37% of the people that live in Mount Morris, New York are in WIC. It's like very, very poverty-stricken area. My family, very, very poor as well, too. And, constantly told, by peers around me, you can't do this, you're not going to do this, you're not going to get ahead in life. I was the first one in my family to graduate college. I got through most of my college with scholarships that I've earned through getting good grades and stuff like that. We didn't have money. We didn't have money at all. And we had to depend on knowledge, hard work, and just knowing when, just getting good grades and stuff like that. So I did that, first in my family to, just succeed in life, essentially is what it is. And this whole idea, this dichotomy of, you can't get anywhere in life because, the society's holding you. It's utter BS because it ain't true, because it boils down to one thing: laziness. People are just lazy.
Well, you made it happen.
They don't want to do it.
Right? You made it happen. You're that top tier, right, Joe? You figured out a way to make it happen. No obstacle stood in your way. You didn't have money. You got scholarships. You worked hard, right?
It was easy by any means. I would be lying to you if I said it was easy. No, it was grueling. It was hard. I have sacrificed to get to that point.
You know what's easy? Easy is sitting at home collecting welfare. That's what's easy. That's what's
exactly.
Easy.
But no, I made it. I made it happen. I made it to where I am today through hard work and dedication and the craft that I love. And I think a lot of people just don't see that, and they don't believe that.
They've got a government that's telling them it's not their fault.
Right.
And after a while,
teachers.
If you grow up in an environment where you can't, eventually believe you can't, right?
Yeah.
I think there was a book like that that said you can, right? It was
for yourself.
There was a little train book at one point that made a lot of money.
Yeah.
You think you can? You think you can?
That could. Yeah. That's
so we're going to come up with a Joe Biden book. You think you can't? You think you can't? You think you can't? You can't.
Right.
And Obama, you can't do this. You didn't build that.
You didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen. I mean, think about all the things that the Democrats. But it's just not. It's the teachers. It's the peers. It's the constantly. You can't get ahead because you can't get ahead because you can't get ahead because you need government to help you.
To fix you.
Remember the
color of
Harris?
your skin is what's keeping you back. You need government to help you.
You need government.
Grow.
Yeah, we'll help you. We'll make it fair. Right?
And we've got such a good track record of making things more equal, which they do. It just makes everybody poor. Yep. All right, guys, we're up against the hour here. Joe Tilton, thank you so much. We'll get you on the radio show soon. Appreciate all your help.
Something I'm supposed to play, so I'm going to see if I got to play this, she said. What am I playing, Kels? Hang on a second. Sorry. Go ahead, Mike. Finish your rap.
Doesn't Kels have a microphone to just tap right into us?
No, New Kel sent me something. We're
all right.
Have to play
I will say this while he's loading it up. If you're interested in looking at our firm for money management, you know that we manage money, chartered financial analysts, registered investment advisors. Actually, one of our money managers is a weekly guest on CNBC Squawk Box, bringing Main Street or Wall Street to Main Street. If you're looking for that type of money management, world-class money management, consider interviewing our team. Don't forget about Medicare season. It is the season for that, folks, and we have independent AHIP-certified Medicare experts that can help you, and it's a complimentary. So you don't have to worry about getting charged. Pop into our office, see if your plan fits. I would encourage you to do that. Even if you've been on the same plan for a bunch of years, takes a few minutes, see if the plan makes sense, see if you're enrolled the right way. So God forbid if something was to happen, you could switch throughout the year if you needed to. And don't forget about our home and auto. Man, we've got over 25 companies to save you money when it comes to home and auto. Give us 14 minutes. Let us shop over 25 companies. It's so easy, a liberal could do it.
So Kelsey sent me this, new Kelsey sent me this video. It looks like a TikTok girl talking about, gifted classes. So, gifted classes are because you're not gifted, you're just white, right? So because there's no black kids ever in gifted classes, right?
No.
Let me play this clip and see what she has to say.
They couldn't possibly without the help of. I just can't imagine if I was black, I'd be so insulted by these Democrats.
I know. Exactly.
I would be
exactly
sick.
what I was thinking. Like,
sick.
Seriously?
So we mean to tell me because my skin is a little darker, I can't be a top academic? Like, give me a break.
The best one is that guy. Was it Arnie on the street or I can't think of the guy's name, but the guy's awesome, right? He's going down the street. He's like, "Do you know where the DMV is? Do you have ID?" Like, of course I have ID.
Turn on a computer.
They're so insulted by it, and they should be. Ami Horowitz. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. I love that. He's out there.
Guy. Absolutely love him.
But he's so good about it. He's like, "Do you have ID?" It's like, "Of course I have ID." Well, you're black. The Democrats are saying you don't have ID, you can't vote.
You couldn't possibly figure out a way to go get your license.
Think about how ridiculous this is, and the sheep that go, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," right?
Yeah.
So we can't have ID requirements for voting because that would be discriminatory. But we can have vaccination IDs to go into a restaurant or do your grocery shopping, even though only about 30% of the African-American community in New York City has been vaccinated.
I hope they
But
get
that's
outraged.
not discriminatory.
I hope they fire up themselves in November and start to vote as these elections come back around. I hope they do. All right, look, we're long in this. Hey, Mr. Tilton, thank you so much. Professor Joe Tilton. That's what we'll just call him, the professor. I like that.
Professor
Mike Lomas, Glenn Wiggle. If you need us throughout the week, folks, 833-FIN, guys. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We're getting on all the new platforms. So we will be on Rumble, Parler, all that stuff. We're working our way over there, and we know we need to do that. Go to our website, thefinancialguys.com, for all our content, whether it's our upcoming workshops. If you'd like to, if you want some information, people email us all the time. Hey, what do you think about this? Or looking to learn more about this. So use our team as a resource, right? We'll see you this Saturday on Financial Guys Radio Network. And don't forget to like us on YouTube. We need to get more and more of that conservative content out there, and we so appreciate your help. Thanks. We'll see you next week.